Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Tell Me Why. We're going to maybe finish the story today. I don't really know how much is left. We're close, I think. We're going to read some more stories. We're going to see what happens. Okay, this is the whole room. There's 18,000 things. You don't want to leave them.
Recognize this?
Yeah, it's from the story where the goblins tricked the Mad Hunter.
It looks like it, but it's different, right? Can you check the book?
Okay, spot the differences.
Some things. With the dress. Yeah, the dress in the water. We read this one. Let's read a different one because we read that one and we read that one. We read that one. I think we're on The Goblin Saved the Old Beaver. So let's read this one. Once upon a time, in a deep, ancient forest, winter gave way to spring in a sudden burst of warm air that melted all the snow and all the ice all at once. The river swelled until it could no longer hold all the water in, and it spilled out to create new rivers in places where no one was expecting them. The whole of the forest went into a panic, looking for shelter from the rising waters. The very old beaver had been working on her dam when one of those new rivers came rushing right toward her. She screeched and squealed, but whatever direction she ran, more water appeared. She was caught in the flooding, and though she had once been an excellent swimmer, age had taken its toll, and so the raging waters carried her off at a speed she couldn't control. Help, she called. The crafty goblins had been running back to their cave under the big wooden house when they heard Beaver's cries. We have to help Beaver, one goblin said. You go one way and I'll go the other. They ran, keeping in touch with the gift of voice. Finally, one of them spotted her, twisting and tumbling in the river, but she was on the opposite side of the water, and the goblin could not reach her. Brother, the sister goblin called out through the gift of voice. I see her, but I can't get her. Maybe you can try? I'll try. The goblin guided her brother so that she could hit the river in just the right spot to reach the beaver. The plan worked, and soon the second goblin appeared in just the right spot. Beaver, he shouted, holding out a branch. Grab a hold of this. The beaver grabbed it, but in her panic she pulled the goblin in too. No, cried the sister, and she ran as hard as her legs could go, managing to outpace the river and get ahead of the beaver and her brother. Searching for some means of getting them out, she spied a low-hanging branch. They'd zip by it quickly, but they were fast enough. Brother, she cried out through the gift, you're coming up on a low-hanging branch. You'll zip by it quickly, but if you're fast enough. Got it, said her brother, and then he said to the beaver, get ready to grab a hold of a low-hanging branch. We're going to zip by it quickly, but if we're fast enough. Suddenly they were right in front of it and reached out, snagging hold. Though the water beat against them, trying to shake them loose, they pulled themselves along the branch back to dry land. When they were all safe, the very old beaver thanked the goblins. But how, she asked, did you know where to find me? And how did you know that branch was coming? The goblins shared a secret smile. Just lucky, I guess, they said. And that's how the goblins saved the very old beaver from the flooding river, and how she never knew how they did it. We are almost done. We've got a few left. Well, when it's like we need to look at a thing, we'll read. So I think we need to put some stuff here, like the dress and the goblins and yeah, goblins dress. Well, we'll see what else we find. Okay.
Why are these pictures from the Book of Goblins here?
I don't know.
That's the crafty goblins' good deeds. Have we read that one? We must have read that one, but I don't know which one it is. That one is not in the book. It says her cruel parents kept her locked away in their musty palace.
It looks like that little piece should move, but it's stuck.
Maybe these need to be done in order. The Mad Hunter seems to be first.
Okay.
Tyler, we're not done with this one.
Okay, fine. I'm just looking at things, but okay. We have to do all of this.
Moonhag's gotta be imprisoned in her lake. Crafty goblins go here. That's the pious pelican spot. The Mad Hunter, always on the princess's trail. The very old beaver definitely goes in her den. The wise princess goes in the big wooden house, of course.
Is there more over here? Yeah, okay. So we should just be missing one.
Back in your pond, Big Frog.
Which
Here,
we will
the
get from
secret
doing.
keeper, hiding secrets in the clouds. The old bear's gotta be in his ice cave. We'll let the mangy muskrat have his rock back. The Ice King goes in the forest, obviously. There you go, stalwart moose.
This is the other one we don't have yet, which we should get. Okay.
Okay, spot the differences. It moves. Oh, some of these parts are buttons.
What did that do? Oh,
Wait,
tree. It's just a tree.
no goblins.
Yeah. In the original, the goblins managed to save the princess from the Mad Hunter.
So we saved Marianne from something, but not in this version? The Mad Hunter still has two hands here.
So this was either before the Gold Lady cut off his other one, or after he earned it back?
Which either makes it before most of the stories or after.
Yeah. At some point when she was running away from whatever the hell the Mad Hunter meant to Marianne.
Huh. A pink flower. Was that in the original picture?
Okay. Oh, okay. So we need to look at the original picture and click the things that are in the original.
Here it is. Why do you think she changed the picture?
I don't know. Maybe it's a message. Like, the differences between the two mean something.
Something about Marianne, right? Since she's the princess?
Yeah. Why don't we try to find them all and then see if it makes any sense?
Okay, the tree is different, for sure. The hands are different. Okay. The flower is there.
Never mind. That's nothing.
And the castle is different.
Why do you think she added that castle in the background?
See the color of the flag? It could be the Gold Lady's castle. And it looks like the princess is
The princess is running away from the Mad Hunter.
who was sent by the Gold Lady, according to the story.
Do you think the Gold Lady could have been Marianne's mom? I mean, she always used to say she moved to the end of the world to get away from her family.
Huh. Yeah, you're right. She ran away. Just like the princess is here.
It says, once upon a time, this young princess who felt helpless. That's the same. That tree is different.
Okay, spot the differences. Or not.
The tree is the same. The
Well,
stars look the
here it
same.
is. Why do you think she changed the picture?
I don't know. Maybe it's a message.
Yeah, that hand
Like,
is definitely different.
The differences
so
between the two mean something.
Something about Marianne, right?
the two
Since
bars.
she's the princess?
Yeah. Why don't we try to find them all and then
Princess.
see if it makes any sense?
That tree seems to be the same. Oh, the words are different.
It's not the same title, so I guess that counts as a difference. That's it. Whoa.
What's in there? Tyler, see that little light? I think we need to solve this one next.
pictures, letters. Have you ever seen any of these?
All the pictures of Marianne I've ever seen were the ones hanging on the walls.
The gold lady. That was definitely her mom.
So, did Marianne grow up kinda rich?
Maybe. Would have been nice to have some of that.
Tyler, see that little light? I think we need to solve this one next.
Well, we're gonna look at all that stuff. I just want to put this down because this is the one thing I did not do in my first playthrough, is get all of these. Something. Can I not put the last one here yet? Okay.
Gold lady stays locked up in her castle.
That's all of it. Yeah, I got that finished, which is cool. Okay, let's look at the stuff in here.
Oh, poor thing.
My
Why would
birdie
she keep an
Polly,
old
I'll
drawing
miss
of a
you
pet in
forever.
here?
I can't believe she was a ballet dancer. Marianne.
And a good one, too.
God, that's so not her. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen a picture of her that young.
I think that's her mom in the background.
Let's look at this picture too.
An artsy environmentalist. Yep, that sounds like Marianne's exact kind of catnip.
Let's look at the things.
Did you know she studied engineering?
No, but it looks like she changed her major to visual arts.
I don't think she actually got it changed. The paper's not signed and it's all wrinkled. Like someone tried to throw it away.
And then there's one last thing. Marianne, I can't do this anymore. You deserve better than cliche bullshit like, it's not you, it's me. But the truth is, it's all just been too much to deal with, and I've realized I'm just not ready. Maybe we could have dealt with all this on our own without your mom constantly putting pressure on us. Things could have been different. But the damage is done, and it's probably too late for all that now. I'm sorry, you're an amazing person, but you made me a better man. I hate myself for doing this, but I feel like we will both be better off apart. There I go again with the cliches. Please don't ever stop being who you are. Here, but I'm gone, Brent.
Could this guy have been any more cryptic?
Okay. So this one next.
There's the gold lady again. She's all over the board. There was a figure of her in that stash by the Mad Hunter painting, right?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe all of this is related to what we found in there.
Okay, let's read another story as we do this because I want to make sure we get through all of them. The goblins irritate the ice cream. Once upon a time, in the deep and ancient wood, the crafty goblins were getting into all kinds of trouble. They had woken up in a particularly mischievous mood that day, and there was not a single denizen of the ancient forest that they could not manage to pull a prank on. They left a mud pie in the princess's kitchen so that when she dug in, she got a big mouthful of dirt. They used paint to draw silly pictures all over Moose's antlers as he slept, and they told Mangy Muskrat that his coat had been returned to its former glory, which made him very sad when he rushed to the water's edge and found that he was still, in fact, still mangy. They stole branches from the very old beaver's dam in order to have a sword fight, and they filled the old bear's den with burrs. Every time they ran away in a fit of giggles, never stopping to consider whether their jokes had done any harm. They were on their way to fill the pious pelican's beak full of bubbles when they were hoisted into the air by their legs. Though they thrashed and shouted, they found themselves staring into the face of the Ice King. All morning, he said, I have been hearing complaints about you two. They're just pranks, said the goblins. No one has really been hurt. Oh, no? Asked the Ice King, and he forced them to see how each of the victims of their pranks was doing. The princess had a stomach ache from swallowing mud. The moose's antlers itched terribly where the paint had touched them. Muskrat was crying, sad at being reminded what his vanity had cost him. The very old beaver's den was flooded, and the old bear was trying to get the burrs out of his fur, but finding most of them hopelessly tangled. For your punishment, said the Ice King, you must help each of them undo the harm you caused. If you do a good enough job if you do a good enough job of this, there will be no further punishment. If you do not, you will have to give me your noses, so that you can no longer stick them into other people's business. Now the goblins liked their noses right where they were and in the middle of their faces, so they set about making things right. They baked a real pie for the princess and brewed her tea that would help settle her stomach. They scrubbed the moose's antlers clean and they covered them in soothing mud. They sat by the river with Muskrat, listening as he talked in great detail about his old coat. And then they did their best to point out all of the things that were still handsome about him, like his proud whiskers and sparkling eyes. They let the very old beaver rest while they repaired all the damage done to her den, and finally they removed every burr from Old Bear's fur, even the ones that were hopelessly tangled. In the end, they came before the Ice King to see if they'd done enough. The Ice King surveyed the forest and found that everyone seemed to be back to normal. "What did you learn?" asked the Ice King. "That our pranks can make people feel bad," said the goblins. The Ice King smiled and nodded. "Yes, actions have consequences. In case you forget, I'm going to leave you with a reminder. Whenever one of your pranks is going to hurt someone, you are going to feel a little pit in your stomach. That will be your punishment and your warning." So every time after that, the goblins set out to do a prank that went a little too far. They felt a pit in their stomachs, and they were forced to consider whether it was the right thing to do. And that is how the goblins irritated the Ice King and how they were punished. Did we have a story about the muskrat's coat? I don't think so. Okay, so
Hey, I can move the piece next to the gold lady.
All these pictures. They look like images from Marianne's life before Delos, don't they?
Well, some of them do anyway. The princess dancing, playing violin, spinning wool. I guess this is stuff she did for fun?
Notice how unhappy she looks in all these pictures? I don't think she was having any fun.
The wise princess looks like she's trying to run away.
And she's being watched by the gold lady.
What's the gold lady do? Is that it?
It's opening.
okay,
What's in there this time?
we have a picture.
Is that Carol?
Yeah, and Sam. Look at him. He's so young and happy.
Wow. She worked for a watchmaker in Juneau before she moved to Delos. No wonder she was so handy.
Okay.
Her father.
Marianne, I hope this letter finds you, but since you didn't leave any contact information, I will have to send it to your aunt and hope for the best. I'm writing to inform you that your mother passed away last week. We just had the funeral reception. The house has been filled with people all day, friends, family, colleagues, and church members. It's now 11 p.m., and I'm sitting alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by dozens of trays of food, flowers, and sympathy cards. Your cousin Andy brought in a beautiful photo album full of our holiday pictures in Laconer. You're there in all of them, but you weren't here today. We haven't heard from you in 4 years and can only hope that you made it to Alaska or wherever you are and that you and your child are both safe. Your mother has been sick and depressed for years, and can imagine why. The pain of being shunned by her own daughter, knowing she would never get to see her grandchild grow up. It spread through her body like cancer and consumed her completely. All this suffering simply because you ran away like a temperamental girl instead of accepting her help when you got pregnant out of wedlock after dropping out of college and without a penny to your name. She only stepped up to help because she knew you weren't ready to raise a child properly, Marianne. A mother's duty doesn't end when her children leave home. Now you're a mother yourself. I hope you will begin to understand that good parenting is about coddling children. It's about providing for them and shaping them into the people they're supposed to become, whether they like it or not. I disagree with this philosophy. You, I won't trouble you again. You made your intention clear. I just thought you should know, Dad.
What the hell? Marianne was pregnant in 1992, before she even got here.
Before us. Do we have a long-lost sibling out there somewhere?
It's possible, but She could have given it up or miscarried. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right. Do you think we could track down her father?
You mean the grandfather she never told us about? I don't think I want to.
You're not at all excited about having more family.
You saw the letter. I don't think we want any part of that.
Fine. Let's keep digging.
There's a thing in there I did not get to look at. Okay. Salmonberry Park, Kodak Island, Eco Village Workshop.
Salmonberry Park. Huh. Is that some kind of commune?
Looks like it.
From the good
So
people.
weird to imagine her living in a community like that. With, other people.
The weirdest part is how they all seem to love her. Where was prom queen Mary Ann when the whole town was turning on us?
Don't be a stranger. Keep looking for those answers, the questions in your head, to which you're blind. Smiley face. We missed you already. Sorry, we're losing you to modern civilization. We'll miss your positive attitude and your adventurous spirit. Bon voyage, Marianne. Marianne, you had the warmest, most beautiful aura, and I know you'll keep on shining wherever you land. Peace and blessings. Thank you for being our little ray of sunshine. Godspeed. I love your pictures. Okay,
This just lit up, so I think we're supposed to try this one next.
let's read a story. The Pelican Forgives the Goblins. I don't think we've read this one, so let's read it. Once upon a time, in the deep ancient forest lived a pair of crafty goblins in a cave below a big wooden house. They lived with a wise princess who shared as much food with them as she was able, but it was never quite enough. This left the goblins hungry, very hungry, always hungry. One day, as they were out foraging for food, the pious pelican landed on a rock and dumped a smorgasbord from her beak, which the goblins knew was magic and never emptied. There were king crabs and red, blue, gold, and scarlet, veiny blue shrimp, pink shelled scallops, oblong brown clams, purple spiny urchins, and even one prickly red sea cucumber. The food just kept coming. They watched as the pelican ate one clam and then took a nap. Do you think she would mind if we took just a little? Asked one goblin to the other. Her beak never empties. She won't possibly miss a couple crabs, said the second, licking her lips. They were agreed, and so they crept over, filched some crabs, and ran. The goblins scarfed the crabs, but when they finished, they found out they were still hungry. She won't miss a handful of shrimp, said one goblin to the other. The goblins scarfed the shrimp, but when they finished, they found they were still hungry. Maybe also a few scallops, said one goblin to the other. The goblins scarfed the scallops, but when they were finished, they found they were still hungry. So they went back for clams, and then urchins, and finally even the sea cucumber. Finally, they were not hungry, but there was nothing left. Just then the pelican woke up. What happened to my food? She asked. Unable to lie about it, the goblins confessed their crime. Pelican was dismayed, but she was a charitable-hearted bird, and she could tell the crafty goblins were growing little creatures. Goblins, said the pious pelican, I will share my food with you, but you must in return follow my example and be generous with others as I am with you. Take that to heart, and I will have considered your debt paid. But we have nothing to give, said the goblins. You have your nimble hands and your crafty brains and your loving hearts, said the pelican. The crafty goblins realized how much they had to give, and for the rest of the day they looked for ways to help other creatures in the forest. They found the stalwart moose struggling with an itchy, hard-to-reach spot on his back, and so they climbed up and gave it a good scratching. Next they helped the old bear, who could not get the honey out of the narrow beehive. They climbed up to the top of the tree with the hive and dropped it, cracking it open. Finally, they found the princess crying over a loss she would not speak about. So they wrapped their little arms around her in a great big hug and stayed until she felt better. When they were done, they returned to the pious pelican. Did it feel good being as generous as I am? Asked the pelican. It did, said the goblins. I'm glad, said the pelican. We all have problems that we can't solve on our own, but if everyone goes about with generosity in their hearts, and then there's always someone on hand to help. But we all must commit to do so, or there may be no one there to help you when you need it. This made sense to the goblins, and they thanked the pious pelican for her food and lessons. Of course, by the time they were hungry again, and that remained an ongoing problem until the day the stalwart moose taught them to fish, but that is another story. And that is how the pious pelican forgave the crafty goblins and how she taught them charity. I liked that one. We have 4 stories left.
What's this?
Some sort of map?
So
That's the Gold Lady's castle.
that would be where she started. And then I think
What's
here.
that plant thing on top?
Oh, those are definitely salmonberry flowers.
Hey, that degree in outdoor studies is paying off.
Some sort of clock?
And
This is the
one.
princess's house.
And then
This looks like a dinner party with the old bear and the very old beaver. Yes.
What's in there? Another letter?
Let's look.
The princess's loss. Is this from the Book of Goblins?
Not that I know of.
Well, sure looks like it could be.
The princess is lost. Once upon a time, in an ancient and deep forest, there lived a wise princess in a big wooden house. She had made it through the woods and to that house with nothing left but the clothes on her back and a single item from her old life, a splendid tiara. She lost almost everything in her desperate flight from the Mad Hunter. The trees tore the rucksack from her back and shredded her dress and left a pattern of red welts on her skin. But through it all, she clutched the tiara close to her chest, fearing any misstep could cause it to fall from her arms and break. The tiara had its own spot in the big wooden house, a pillow near the window, where the sun would catch on the surface to shine and wink. The princess could stare for hours at the tiara, marveling in its beauty and running her thumb down its curves. Every morning she would wake and she would tend to it, polishing its every surface to be sure it shone brightly as it possibly could. Then she would pluck it up and place it upon her head and walk the woods, feeling somehow more complete. Because what, after all, was a princess without a crown? Every night she would place it upon its pillow and give it a quick kiss and go to bed. On her way, she would pause and glance back to be sure it was still there. She hated to be separated from it, but she knew it was the safest on the pillow while she slept. One night the princess woke to a raging storm. The wind howled against the walls, rattling the windows in their panes. Feeling a gust might burst open a window and blow the tiara to the ground, she plucked it from its pillow and brought it to bed with her. All through the night she held the tiara close, and in the morning she woke to find herself still cradling it. The storm had passed, and the princess relaxed. The day was the same as any other, though she perhaps gave the tiara an even more thorough cleaning, grateful that she was that nothing had gone wrong. That night she placed the tiara upon its pillow, gave it a quick kiss, and went to bed, pausing on her way to be sure it was still there. In the morning she woke and sensed immediately that something was wrong. In the living room the tiara lay upon the ground, broken, dull, and faded. Nothing else in the room had changed. The pillow was exactly where she had left it. The window was closed. There had been no storm, no wind, no sign that anything had gone amiss. Only the broken tiara mute upon the ground. She picked it up and held it in her arms with a guttural cry. But though she tried to fix it and polish it, it was gone beyond repair and with no shine left. The princess held the tiara through the day and through the next night, sitting in the same spot at the window where she used to polish it. When the sun rose, she looked outside, and her gaze fixed on a sapling. She remembered how the sapling had survived the winter, clinging to life despite the frozen, unforgiving earth. Without a word, she went out and buried the tiara in the ground beneath the sapling. And as the final scoop of dirt fell, the tiara felt truly gone, and with it the final link to her old self. She could only go forward and find a new place for herself in this world, where she was no longer truly a princess in a tiara and a beautiful gown, but a wan woman alone in the deep and ancient wood. And that was how the princess lost her most precious treasure and her title.
And that was how the princess lost her most precious treasure and her title. That was the story she read us that night.
God, it makes sense now.
Yeah, she got pregnant. And she ran away to start a new life. And then she made her way to Delos Crossing, where she was finally happy. But then the baby died.
I can't even imagine how she must have felt. She left everything behind, built a whole new life for him. And then he was just gone.
I guess having us helps her move on. But when it looked like we were gonna be taken away, she snapped. She just couldn't lose any more children. It really wasn't anything we did.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all this.
I don't either, but all I wanted was to understand what happened to her. And now I do.
Yeah. But we still haven't seen what's in that chest. Okay, so how do we open it?
Um, I'm going to read the next story. I know we just read a story, but I'm going to read the next story here. The goblins meet the ice troll. Once upon a time, in an ancient and deep forest, the crafty goblins were awake long after they should have been asleep. One goblin said to the other, "Let's go and explore the forest." Now, the goblins were not in the habit of exploring the forest late at night, and they did not know what they would find. But this did not scare them off. They crept out of their beds, bundled up, and went exploring. It was dark. The light of the moon was just enough to keep them from walking into the trees, but they could not see more than 15 feet in front of them. Every time a twig snapped or branches rattled, they considered turning back, but they didn't. And so they had ventured far beyond the house into a part of the forest they were not familiar with. When they realized the snapping of twigs and the rattling of branches had become steady, something was following them. They turned to run, but a hulking figure emerged from the darkness, sweeping them up with a giant hand and stuffing them in a burlap sack. The goblins wiggled and cried out, but the sack remained shut as their captor stamped through the forest, singing, "Whittle diddle dum, whittle diddle dee, in this bag's a meal for me." After a lot of thumping and thudding, the bag opened, and the goblins were dumped into a giant iron pot full of warming water. A huge troll stood overhead, grinning down at them through long, bushy, white eyebrows. "I'm an ice troll, and you are my dinner." He readied to cook the goblins, singing, "Whittle diddle dum, dum dee dee, there's soon to be a soup for me." Finishing his ditty, he bent over to stoke the fire beneath the pot and let out a loud noise of pain, rubbing a spot on his back that always ached. The troll stood painfully and walked over to a stone shelf where he began to chop potatoes. One of the goblins had an idea. She whispered to her brother, "Follow my lead." The goblin stretched out in the water, floating and letting out sighs of contentment. "Ah," said one of the goblins, "this is the most relaxed I've ever been. My body feels so good. I think I could run 100 miles without stopping." The second troll peered at them. Said the second. The troll peered at them. They weren't supposed to be happy about being in the cook pot, but they certainly looked like they were. "Troll," said the goblins, "if your back is hurting, you should try sitting in the water, just for a little bit, before it gets too hot." The troll stumped over. "But if I take you out, then you will escape, and there will be no soup for me." "Put us back in the sack," suggested the goblins, "then we can't run away." This made sense to the troll. The spot on his back that always ached was still bothering him, and the goblins couldn't go anywhere if they were trapped. So he stuffed the goblins back in the sack and climbed into the soup pot. He stretched out and let out a sigh of contentment. Meanwhile, the goblins threw themselves around in the sack until it began to swing. The troll was so relaxed he didn't even notice. The bag dropped onto the shelf where the troll had been chopping potatoes, and the goblins pushed it up against the edge of the troll's knife, sawing a hole. Then they made a break for it. The troll finally noticed what they were doing and roared out in anger, but he was so relaxed that when he tried to chase them, he tumbled out of the cookpot and into the flames, catching his bushy eyebrows on fire. The goblins ran and ran and ran as fast as they could through the ancient and deep forests until they were back in their cave and safe in their beds, and they vowed never to venture out in the ancient and deep forest late at night again, for they did not think they'd get so lucky as to trick the ice troll twice. And that is the story of how the crafty goblins met the ice troll and why they never did it. Why they never did again. Oh wait, this might be Muskrat's coat, I think. Okay, we got 3 left. So blue is O. No, okay. Yellow is O, red is L, and orange is E. So red is L, yellow is O, orange is E. Okay.
All right, should be easy enough.
L. This one is E. Leo. I think the baby's name was Leo. Oh. There she finally
Whoa.
fell.
Did it just get darker in here?
Yes, it did.
A baby blanket? Ollie, she noticed.
Dear Allison and
I
Ollie,
was her son.
we write stories to understand and be understood, but what good is a story without a first act? I'm sorry I kept mine from you for so long. All my love, goblins.
Why does she have a photo of that tree locked in here?
Aww.
Is that...
Leo Ronan.
Why didn't she tell us about him? Why didn't she tell us any of this?
I mean, it's fucking terrible. That's why. Allie, did we do the right thing opening this?
We did. It's better we know what happened, even if it's hard. And there's one more thing we need to see.
Are you sure?
Yes. Come on, let's go to the dock. It's time to finish this.
Crafty goblins.
The crafty goblin's loot.
That's from The Princess and the Two Thieves. I drew the original.
And I distinctly remember drawing that cake, which is arguably the best part of that illustration.
All right, Picasso. Then you probably remember what the goblins stole in that story, huh?
They were stealing food mostly, but let's... Stole the cake. Yeah, it's food, so the fruit.
Maybe they took some of the princess's fruit?
And the
Some flour for the cake, maybe?
eggs.
I'm pretty sure they stole some eggs. Did they steal candy?
I don't think they took that. I don't know that we...
Or not.
Did they take a spoon?
What if they took some spoons?
They took a spoon.
Actually, I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, spoons did, yeah. I don't think they stole the flour.
Actually, I'm not sure.
The spoon.
What if they took some spoons? That's it.
Oh my gosh, look.
I always wondered where that drawing went.
You're
She
the
said it
best.
was her favorite, and then one day it just disappeared.
You're the best mom in the world, the prettiest princess. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. I don't know that I did all these either because these seem optional. Okay, let's read another story. We've done a puzzle. We're reading a story because I want to get finished. We've got 3 left. The goblins tricked the muskrat. Once upon a time in the deep and ancient wood lived a muskrat. The muskrat was a lazy, cowardly creature who did little but lay around in the sun, cleaning his beautiful coat until it shone. One day the muskrat found the crafty goblins playing king of the mountain on his favorite rock. He was too cowardly to confront them directly, so he retreated to a safe distance and then pitched a stone right at the hornet's nest hanging overhead. One of the goblins saw him do it, but before she could say anything, the hornets emerged furious and chased the goblins away, stinging them. With the rock empty, the muskrat claimed a spot. When the goblins returned, they asked Muskrat, "Why did you do that?" "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, and turning away to ignore them. The goblins knew that the muskrat cared for nothing but his coat, so they devised to steal it in order to teach him a lesson. As the muskrat lay in the sun, he spied the goblins strutting by. Their skin was covered with flecks of gold. "Goblins," called the muskrat, "what happened to make your skin shine that way?" When when we were attacked by the hornets, we ran away until we found a pool by the glacier. We dove in and then came out this way. "Would you show me this pool?" they asked the muskrat. The crafty goblins led the muskrat to a pool. The muskrat looked at the pool skeptically. "It looks like a pool," he said. The goblins chuckled and shrugged. "You don't have to jump in if you don't want to, but what do you lose if you try? And if it works, why, you'll be the most beautiful creature in the whole of the forest." With visions of his splendid coat in mind, the muskrat jumped in. When he emerged, he was disappointed to find nothing had changed. Said one goblin. "Maybe you have to be stung by hornets first, just like us." The muskrat hesitated because getting stung would be painful. Seeing his hesitation, the goblin added, "If it works, you will be the most beautiful creature in the whole of the forest." The muskrat decided it was worth it, so he returned to the hornet's nest and pitched a stone right at it. The hornets emerged even more furious this time. They chased the muskrat, stinging him repeatedly until he jumped into the magic pool. The muskrat was disappointed to find that once again nothing had changed. "I wonder if the magic only works for us," said one goblin. "Would you like me to jump in with your coat?" The muskrat hesitated. "If it works, you will be the most beautiful creature in the whole of the forest." With visions of his splendid coat in mind, the muskrat agreed. He slipped it off and handed it to the goblins. Without his coat, the muskrat was pale and covered in scabbing welts. Instead of jumping in the pool, one of the goblins ran away and with the coat laughing, and the other pushed Muskrat into the frigid pool, and as the water splashed the goblins, the gold flecks ran, revealing they had only ever been painted on. The muskrat was so pitiful and made such a clamor that he woke up the Ice King, who came down to the forest to see what had happened. When the Ice King saw the muskrat, he laughed, only further infuriating the creature. "Tell me what happened," said the Ice King. Both the muskrat and the goblins told their sides of the story, and the Ice King considered the case before him. "If it is true that the muskrat is vain and he thinks of nothing but himself," concluded the Ice King, "but he needs something to keep him warm in the water and snow." So the Ice King was this. So the Ice King was decided. The muskrat would get his coat back, but it would be patchy and unkempt. After that day, he became known as Mangy Muskrat, and that is how the goblins tricked the muskrat into giving up his coat and how he got his name. Okay, let's look at this.
Crafty goblins' good deeds.
Of course. The goblins had to help out the creatures of the forest to pay off their debt to the pelican.
Well,
Oh,
what
we
did
read
they
that
do?
one.
You know, I don't really remember.
They
They
scratched
gave the stalwart
moose.
moose a good scratch on the back.
They helped the beaver.
They helped fix the beaver dam. They hugged the princess when she was crying.
And the
They
beehive.
broke open the beehive for the bear.
Did they not do the beehive? I thought they did. I don't think they did the... Okay,
Or not.
they did those things.
They broke open the beehive for the bear.
Because he hit his hands and the scratching. I don't think they didn't do anything with the frog, and I don't think they fed the muskrat.
They had to give nuts to the muskrat.
That is not what happened.
Actually, I'm not sure.
They didn't help the
Or
beaver?
not.
Okay, they didn't help the beaver in this one.
Nailed it. Our lives would have been so different if their friendship hadn't gone to shit.
The Pelican Crossing is a specialty gift boutique located near O'Shea Glacier, catering to the channel tourists as well as Delos Crossing locals. We specialize in an assortment of high-quality products, from home accessories to handmade souvenirs to personalized apparel and locally made art. The Pelican Crossing will be the first store to act as a relay between the buzzing arts and crafts scene and customers, and in addition to a wide array of novelty handcrafted products, the consumer will enjoy friendly and knowledgeable customer service from the Vecchi store co-owner Tessa Vecchi and up-and-coming artist Marianne Rowan. The business plan is prepared to obtain financing in the amount of $20,000 to purchase inventory to help cover expenses the first year of operations. In year one, the Pelican Crossing plans to break even, and in year two, plan to generate a moderate profit. Working on the executive summary part of our business plan, what do you think, Tessa? Okay, got it. Once upon a time, in a deep ancient forest, the crafty goblins were hungry. This wasn't unusual. The goblins were always hungry, but today they were particularly hungry. They opened the wise princess's cupboards to look for a snack, but all she had was a small pile of nuts and berries and just one strip of dried fish. The goblins grabbed it and gobbled it up, but they were still hungry. They went out into the woods to look for more to eat. First, they dropped by the small pond. The big frog was asleep beside the pond, and the was a pile of insects she had caught for eating after she woke up. The goblins crept up to the pile, careful not to wake the big frog. As they got close, she ribbited loudly and they froze. But the big frog kept sleeping, so they grabbed up the pile of insects and gobbled it up. They were still hungry. And as they crept back into the woods, they found the stalwart moose watching them. Did you just steal Big Frog's food? The goblins tried not to look guilty, but failed. She said we could have them, they cried. Oh, really? Said Moose. Let's ask her. So Moose woke up Big Frog and asked, did you say the goblins could have your food? And Big Frog looked at the goblins, who she knew were always hungry, and nodded. Yes, I did. Really? Asked Moose, surprised. Frog nodded, and the Moose sighed. All right, then, he said, and he let the goblins go. Their next stop was the river, and he watched as the old bear swiped at a leaping salmon, catching it deftly in his large paws. He lay it out upon the rock to let it dry, lumbering into the woods to seek out some berries. The crafty goblins crept up to the rock, carefully in case Old Bear returned. They reached the rocks, grabbed the salmon, and gobbled it up, but they were still hungry. As they crept back into the woods, the stalwart moose was once again waiting for them. Are you going to tell me Old Bear said you could have that? Yes, replied the goblins. Old Bear ambled up at that moment, and Moose asked him, did you leave that fish for the goblins? Old Bear looked at the goblins, who he knew were always hungry, and nodded. I did, he said. Really, said the moose. Really, said the old bear. After Moose left, Old Bear said to the goblins, be sure to tell the princess I was kind to you, and don't steal my fish again. The goblins, still hungry, went on looking for one more meal. They crept up to Mangy Muskrat's lodge and began to climb inside when they were dragged right back out. The stalwart moose dangled them by the seats of their pants and said, now I know Mangy Muskrat didn't tell you could go eat his food, because he blames you for his coat being ruined. Besides, he barely has enough for himself and doesn't share with anyone. The goblins began to protest, but he shook his head. He set the goblins down and said, come with me. The goblins followed Stalwart Moose to a part of the river where it ran slow, enough for them to walk in safely. He gave them each fishing line and said, I'm going to teach you to fish, so that when you're hungry, you do not need to steal from the animals of the forest. It will be hard work, but it will be honest. The crafty goblins were not against working hard, they were just hungry, so they listened to Moose and soon pulled wiggling fish out of the river. They ate them up, and finally they were no longer hungry. And that's how the stalwart Moose came to teach the crafty goblins to fish. That was a cute one. Okay, we have one last one.
The very old beaver's repair list.
That's the story where the princess's house gets damaged by a storm and the animals help her fix it.
Yeah. What did they do to fix it again?
I
She
know
slapped
that.
the post with her tail to write it. She fixed the roof shingles.
Right? Like I think most do. I don't.
She fixed the broken window. She fixed the planks that were blown off the walls.
Okay, I know the planks are a thing.
Or not. All right.
There we go.
Damn. That must have been rough on Eddie.
Yeah, he doesn't really like to talk about her.
Dear Marianne, you cover your ears every time I try to have a conversation with you, so I thought I'd have a better chance doing this in letter. I know you don't like saying goodbye, so I'll keep my melancholic rambling short and sweet. I want to thank you with all my heart for taking care of me these past few months. I can't even imagine how exhausting it must have been for you to look after a sick old lady when you also have two small children at home. I know you want me to keep fighting this disease and hoping for recovery, but it's always been a great strength of mine to know when it's time to let go, and that time has come. I'd like to ask you for one last favor. Please take care of Eddie after I'm gone. My poor boy puts on a brave front ever since his father died, but I know he's in pain. It would be so much more at peace knowing he still has family. Maybe he could teach the kids how to fish. He loves spending time with them. Thank you for the warmth and peace you brought to my life. Give the kids a kiss for me, will you, Carol? Okay, let's read the last story and do the last puzzle. The Mad Hunter gets his hand back. Once upon a time, in the deep, cold lake near the ancient forest, there lived an old seal who was a powerful witch. After angering the Ice King, she had been bound to the lake, allowed only to venture out when the moon was full and the only looking like the hag she truly was. For a year she dreamed of vengeance all alone within the deep lake among the corpses of her many previous victims. One night she awoke to see a black and hooded silhouette clawing to reach a beautiful gown full of stone. The human had delved far deeper into the lake than any land dweller should have been able to go. His tenacity and ferociousness impressed the moon hag, and she decided he would be wasted in her statuary of corpses. She used her magic to enspell him, allowing him to breathe under water, but also binding him to her service. You, she said, will be the instrument of my release and my revenge, for you and I together will kill the Ice King. The moon hag had never heard of the Mad Hunter, and she did not know the power he wielded. She could only tell he was a hunter, and her lust for revenge blinded her to the threat he posed. She gifted him a hand of ice, which was not as nimble as a hand of flesh, but allowed him to serve better than no hand at all. The moon hag spent years devising the perfect plan to kill the Ice King, and years more moving all the pieces into place to execute it. In the meantime, the Mad Hunter served her, guarding her chest of treasures and plotting his own plots. Finally, everything was prepared. The full moon rose, and the moon hag stepped on land, giddy at the thought that she would never have to leave again if it did not please her. She brought the Mad Hunter to his post, a jagged peak of ice and stone from which he would loose an arrow that would slay the Ice King. Before she could go, he put forward a proposal. Moon hag, said the Mad Hunter, if you grow back my missing hand, I would be certain to hit the Ice King with my arrow. We will have only one shot, and I would hate to miss it. You're a powerful witch, so you'll be able to craft ties that bind me to this place that I cannot break. The moon hag considered it. All right, I will grow back your hand and then bind you here with ties that will not break. She cast a spell, and the Mad Hunter's hand of ice was replaced with a hand of flesh. As the witch left to complete the next part of her plan, the Mad Hunter grinned wickedly in the moonlight. After a short time, the moon hag returned, luring the Ice King into the Mad Hunter's line of sight. What is this about, moon hag? Asked the Ice King. Many a long year have you bound me to the lake, said the moon hag. Many a long year have I been alone in the dark. That ends tonight. She cast a powerful spell that made the Ice King slow to react, and then gave the signal. Mad Hunter, she cried, let your arrow fly. Nothing happened. She twitched nervously. Mad Hunter, she growled, let your arrow fly. But still nothing happened. The Ice King, meanwhile, was striding toward her, slow but furious. Moonhag fled, running first to the jagged peak of ice and stone where her servant should have waited. But the peak was empty, and the ties had been broken, and the Mad Hunter was gone. For in the end, he's the more powerful of the two, especially once he had two hands. When the Ice King finally caught the hag, his furious voice could be heard throughout the forest. For your wickedness, you will be eternally bound to the lake, and you will no longer be allowed to leave, not even under the full moon. The moon hag was imprisoned in the lake, and she never again tried to escape. And that is how the Mad Hunter escaped the moon hag, and how he got his left hand back. Okay, we've read all the stories now.
The old bear's gifts for the princess. I'm totally blanking on that story. What did...
There we go. You can come down how... A fresh caught salmon, a handful of ripe berries, a newly bloomed bluebell.
Give her again.
Why don't we open up the book and check?
Fresh caught
salmon? A newly bloomed bluebell? Some roses, maybe?
Nope, not that.
Maybe not.
What are those?
A handful of ripe berries?
There we go.
Nice. Man, he had it bad. Just couldn't let go.
Sorry for the note under the door like a prison inmate. You okay? I stopped by and rang a couple times this week, but you didn't answer. I could see a light in the hayloft, so I figured you were in, but didn't want to talk. I hope I didn't ruin everything. I know I probably on kind of strong, but the thing is, I don't know how to talk to a man like you. You are strong and kind, and you know how much it's hard for me to know how to keep up. I guess all that went to my head, but I want you to know that I got the message, and I'm gonna get out of your hair now. And there doesn't need to be any bad feelings. We can pass in the street and say hello or not. It's okay. Yes, I noticed your car was leaking, so I put the sealant in there. You might need to take it to the shop, though. Let me know if you want me to come with you because sometimes these guys try to rip you off. If not, no big deal. Say it. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a moment because I need to go eat lunch in real life. But I think we're close to the end, so I don't want to stop. So we're gonna pause and then I'll come back after lunch and record more. Not that you'll know, because it'll just be a second for you. Okay, and we're back. It's been a while for me, but not a long time for you. So let's keep going. I'm pretty sure we're almost done.
You really want to go? You sure we've seen everything?
I guess we could stay a little longer if you think there's more to find.
We did all of those things. Oh, I guess.
I wish you just explained all this to us.
Yeah, I think we've seen everything.
You really want to go? You sure we've seen everything?
Either way, I'm ready for this to be over.
Me too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the... Actually, I don't know for sure this is the end, but let's at least do this part. And then...
What are we waiting for? I want to know who was here that night. Let's try and remember who Marianne was arguing with.
Almost. Tom? Tom Vecchi is our father?
Of course. It had to be him.
Tessa knew, didn't she?
Yeah, she must have. That's what she didn't want to tell us.
God, Marianne and Tom?
I know.
What should we do now?
Yeah, call him out here and make him tell us what was going on.
And if he won't?
We know his secret. He will. Tom? It's Allison. We need to talk. We know it was you.
You know what? That seems like a great place to stop. I don't know how long the last episode of this will be. Well, I guess we're going here. I don't know. Actually, let's just stop there. I don't know how long the last episode will be, because I honestly don't remember. But let's stop here. Thank you for watching. Love you all so, so much. And I'll see you next time for the last episode of this. Bye. Thank you for watching. It means so much to us. If you enjoyed your time here and would like to see more, you can consider subscribing here to the YouTube channel. We upload 2 days a week, on Mondays and on Saturdays. And if you want even more than that, we stream 4 days a week on our Twitch channel, which has the same name as our YouTube channel. We stream on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 8 to 10 Eastern Time, and on Sundays from 2 to 4 Eastern Time. Plus, you can look for some pop-up streams in the afternoons here and there. Thank you for watching. I love you all so, so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.